Good morning, dear devotees. So I happen to be rescheduled for class today. Thank you, devotee, for tuning in, and I'm gonna chant a little bit before we start. Charara Marava Ganja Jayavara Madhava Gandhavya Jaya Gopishana Vallabha Girivara Yasodanandana Bhajana Rangana Yasodanandana Bhajana Rangana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Rama Rama Ganja Bihari Jaya Gopishana Balabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bhajana Rangana Yasodanandana Bhajana Rangana Yamunatera Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Jaya Rama Rama Kunjabhyari Jaya Rara Madhava Kunjabhyari Jaya Gopishana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopishana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bhajana Rangana Yamunatera Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Ram Vishnu Bhagwan Saparika Jaya Astastashi Srimad Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Ki Jai Vishnu Paramahamsa Purivakacharya Satra Shishama Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Gopaswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Haridasa Guru Ki Jai Prem Shri Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitya Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Oh glory to the assembled bhaktis. Oh glory to the assembled bhaktis. Oh glory to the assembled bhaktis. Oh glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Rupa to Shri Prabhupada. Devotee, please join me for invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namakishanaram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayam Hridaya. So today's we're reading from Canto 5, Chapter 5, Lord Nrsimha teaching, and verse 10 through 13. It's a very long verse, full of nectar, so I will try to read it very slowly so that we can absorb in the nectar of this verse. I just recite the Sanskrit one time. I suddenly forgot the tune of this. Can someone remind me of the tune of the meter for the verse, if anyone happens to have the verse? If not, I will just chant the Sanskrit. Amshe Guru Mai Bhakyanu Vidya Vishtritnaya Vanvati Tikshaya Cha Savatra Janto Vishana Vagatya Jigyashaya Tapashayani Vritya Makamabi Matkathaya Cha Nityam Mateva Shankar Gunakirtaname Nivaira Samyopa Shamena Putra Shri Asaya Dehagyatma Buddhe Adyatma Jukena Vivikta Shivaya Pranayandri Atma Bija Jena Satrik Shaktradaya Brahmachayena Shasvat Asam Pramadena Jamena Vajam Savatrama Bhava Vichakshanena Yanena Vigyana Vibrayitena Yogina Driti Utjama Sattva-yukto Lingam Vyapo His Kushalvam Makyan. Translation word by word. Hamsa, who is a Paramahamsa, or the more exalted, spiritually advanced person. Guru, to the spiritual master, Mai unto me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhakya, by devotional service. Anuvidya, by following. Vitrisnaya, by detachment from sense gratification. Vanva, of the dualities of the material world. Titikshaya, by tolerance. Ja, also. Savatra, everywhere. Janto, of the living entity. Vashana, the miserable condition of life. Avagatya, by realizing. Jivyakshaya, by inquiring about the truth. Tapasya, by practicing austerities and penances. Ihani Vritya, by giving up the endeavor for sense enjoyment. Matkamabi, by working for me. Matkathaya, by hearing topics about me. Cha also, Nityam always. Madeva Sangat, by association with my devotees, Guna Kirtana me, by chanting and glorifying my transcendental qualities, Nivaira, being without enmity, Samya, seeing everyone equally by spiritual understanding, Upashamena, by subduing anger, lamentation, and so on, Putra, O sons, Jihashaya, by desiring to keep up, Deha, with the body, Geha, with the home, Atmabuddhe, identification of the self, Adhyatmajogena, by study of the revealed scriptures, Viviktashevaya, by living in a solitary place, Prana, the life air, Indriya, the senses, Atma, the mind, Abhijajena, by controlling, Kshatriya completely, Sasradaya, by developing faith in the scriptures, Brahmacharya, by observing celibacy, Sattva always, Asampramadena, by not being bewildered, Jamena, by restraint, Vacham, upwards, Savatra, everywhere, Matbhava, thinking of me, Vichakshanena, by observing, Yanena, by development of knowledge, Vijnana, by practical application of knowledge, Virayatena, illumined, Yogena, by practice of Bhakti Yoga, Triti, patience, Uddhama, enthusiasm, Sattva, discretion, Yukta, endowed with, Lingam, the cause of material bondage, Vyapohet, one can give up, Kushala, in full auspiciousness, Ahamayam, false ego, false identification with the material world. So, translation and purport by His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Yes, thank you, Taraka Prabhu. Oh, my son, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should play your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable conditions of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a secluded place and practice the process by which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, the Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. Just speak a few comments here. This verse is so nectars all the instructions about the process of bhakti, the process of getting out of this material existence are all clocked in all combined in this verse. And it's interesting because earlier, the verses earlier that we've been reading about, we read about the mode of how the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance and will not be able to attain self-realization, and how the body of male and female, the attraction between male and female, is the basic principle of material existence. And it's interesting because Lord Nrsimha give all this instruction as facts that this is what's going on in the material world. But he does not tell one, Lord Nrsimha, he does not say that, so you should practice renunciation and go to the forest and meditate on your own so that you don't have to deal with this hard knot of material existence, the attraction between male and female. He doesn't say that. Instead, he gives the fact of how the material energy works, as in how the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the attraction between male and female, due to the sex attraction. So he gives the realistic fact about what actually going on in the material existence. But then he go on to give all the instruction about the bhakti process, and this is the bona fide process to give up the material body, to give up the false sense of I and my, the false sense of who we are in this world. So I just thought that is a very interesting point that I would like to mention. And so then I go on to read the purport. In these 4 verses, so this is text 10 to 13. In these 4 verses, Nrsimha tells his sons how they can be free from the false identification arising from false ego and material conditional life. One gradually becomes liberated by practicing as mentioned above. All these prescribed methods enable one to give up the material body, lingam vyapohat, and be situated in his original spiritual body. First of all, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master. This is advocated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Shri Guru Padashaya. To be free from the entanglement of the material world, one has to approach a spiritual master. Tatvijnanatam sukurum avabhigachat. By questioning the spiritual master and by serving him, one can advance in spiritual life. When one engages in devotional service, naturally, the attraction for personal comfort for eating, sleeping, and dressing is reduced. By associating with the devotee, a spiritual standard is maintained. The word Madhava Sangat is very important. There are many so-called religions devoted to the worship of various demigods, but here good association means association with one who simply accepts Krishna as his worshipable deity. Another important item is Vanvati Diksha. As long as one is situated in the material world, there must be pleasure and pain arising from the material body. As Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tam Titiksha Bharat, one has to learn how to tolerate the temporary pains and pleasures of this material world. One must also be detached from his family and practice celibacy. Sex with one's wife, according to the scriptural injunction, is also accepted as brahmacharya celibacy, but illicit sex is opposed to religious principles, and it hampers advancement in spiritual consciousness. Another important word is Vijnana Virayita. Everything should be done very scientifically and consciously. One should be a realized soul. In this way, one can give up the entanglement of material bondage. As Srimad points out, the sum and substance of these four sloka is that one should refrain from acting out of a desire for sense gratification and should instead always engage in the Lord-loving service. In other words, Bhakti Yoga is the acknowledged path of liberation. Srimad quotes from the Adhyatma. Atmano vidam karma vajayat vanjakamana kamasya cha parijyago niriyati ahutama. One should perform activities only for the benefit of the soul. Any other activity should be given up. When a person is situated in this way, he is said to be desireless. Actually, a living entity cannot be totally desireless, but when he desires the benefit of the soul and nothing else, he is said to be desireless. Spiritual knowledge is jnana vijnana samanvita. When one is fully equipped with jnana and vijnana, he is perfect. Jnana means that one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu to be the Supreme Being. Vijnana refers to the activities that liberate one from the ignorance of material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jnanam Parama Guyam Mejat Vijnana Samanvitam. Knowledge of the Supreme Lord is very confidential, and the supreme knowledge by which one understands him further the liberation of all living entities. This knowledge is begun. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Kama Chameri Vyam Evam Jovet Tatpata Devadeham Puna Janma Naitimam Mishti Shojana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So that is the end of the translation and purport. Please, devotee, if you may, please join me for the prayer to the Guru Parampara. Om Nagyan Timarandasha Ganashana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Patsaya Bhutale Shrimate Ramita Swami Tinamine Prachare Purvadaksham Cha Bhakta Jara Pavanyata Parahata Tapikarunya Yashashavachata. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Patsaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Ramita Swami Namaste Sarvati Devi Karavani Vachari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Vairava Shiva Sari Vairava Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Panchapataro Vishya Kipasindu Devata Titananda Vaishnava. Dearest devotee, please bestow upon me all of your mercy and blessing and empowerment so that I can be of service for you and I can speak something that is truthful to Guru and Sastra and something that is beneficial for you and hopefully enlivening. I am your humble servant, so I need your mercy. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, when reading about, especially about the attraction between male and female, and how that attraction tied the heart of the male and female and bite one into more illusion. This is very discouraging, if I'm being very honest. But so I'm trying to understand how can we understand what Srila Prabhupada and what Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us, because this is the theme that we hear repeatedly through Sastra, and it is a fact that sex is a cause of bondage and the attraction between male and female in this world, and now today between male and male, female and female, all these attraction with another living being. It is a fact that is the cause of bondage, and it binds it into the material existence. And because of that attraction, like the previous verses, we talk about how just by the desire for sex is implicated. I think there's the purport that conceding to a life of sex, he agreed to suffer all kinds of material miseries. So, so we understand that it is a fact, but then how do we get out of it? Does that mean that out of renunciation and avoid people, avoid interacting with those that we feel physically or emotionally or mentally attracted to? Is that the right path to do? And I've been having a realization that a lot of our spiritual visions is obscured or is filtered through our material consciousness, how through our samskara in this world. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes I make the example of my own experience. I was really attached to Gitanagari as the holy dam. And on a spiritual level, it appears like, oh, maybe I'm just very attracted to the holy dam, and maybe I'm on a certain level of spiritual advancement that I'm just really attached to the dam and really attached to the devotees. But then as I realized more and more attraction, it was implicated with my psychological needs, and I expand more about it. I expand more because I grew up in Vietnam, which is a very close-knit community, very similar to Gitanagari. Everyone come together all the time. And so actually my material consciousness think about Gitanagari as my material home. So my attachment have some mixed implication to it. It's not purely devotional. So that's what I'm trying to say, that a lot of the time we may think that we have the taste, we have the attachment to devotees, and that is true, that is there. But there's always something that is implicated through our samskara, through the body that we have right now, through the physical, psychological, mental platform in the samskara that we have. And in the class with Chitta Shakti on Sunday, she talked about asking ourselves, what is our blind spot? What is something that, what is the part of our identity, of our material identity that feels threatening in executing devotional service. And this is what I thought a lot about, because the sense of let's say the sense of belongingness to a certain place, if we are able to trace out the root of where that attraction comes from, where that need for belongingness to a community come from, then we can elevate ourselves further to the pure attachment, to the pure association, hankering for devotional service. So a lot of the time, I myself have that sometimes, for example, dreams of the deities. And I thought, oh, I'm a very exalted devotee to have those dreams, right? But it's actually sometimes it can be actually spiritual dreams, but sometimes it may just be the action of the mind and through the energy, because sometimes when we absorb so much in thinking about something, like I may think about a deity and wanting to dress them, for example, and yes, that is nice, but a lot of the time, a lot of our experience with spiritual realm is very filtered. And I'm not saying that everyone, but there's always a chance that our experience, our spiritual experience could be filtered. And that is where we need to figure it out, and we need to cut that in order for us to truly experience the spiritual emotions that we actually endowed with. So I don't remember how I came to talk about that, but so yeah, I was talking about male and female attraction. So yeah, so similarly, when we're attracted to a devotee, for example, there's so many layers to that. And so we want to think about what is best for our spiritual advancement, right? And so again, back to the point about the verse today, Lord Nrsimha not saying that, okay, male and female attraction is the basic principle of material existence. It's going to buy you to the material existence. Lord Nrsimha didn't say that, okay, you should not get married. You should just go on with the celibacy part and renounce your life and not interact with anyone. Lord Nrsimha didn't say any of that. He said that, first of all, one should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. That's what he said. And actually, the previous verse, the verse yesterday, also have a very similar instruction that in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, so in the translation of the verse yesterday, Srila Prabhupada translated that when the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the result of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and become liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, when by associating with sadhus and engaging in devotional service, one is gradually free from the material conception. Due to knowledge, practice, and detachment, the knot of attachment in the heart is slackened. Thus, one can get free from conditional life and become eligible to return home back to Godhead. So again, association with the sadhus engaging in devotional service, accept a highly advanced spiritually spiritual master. So that is the way for it to get out of this material world. And I want to really come back to the point of avoiding, and so like one might say that, okay, male and female attraction in this world cause a bondage. I don't want to associate with anyone. I don't want to get married because I'm afraid that it will be the cause of my fall down in spiritual life. And that is true, because it's difficult. I'm not really denying the fact that being in like, I would say Gritamity rather than Gritasa. My Gurudev said that to be a Gritasa couple, that is a really exalted position. And not everyone who are married are actually Gritasa. And so a lot of the time we may think that, okay, let me avoid this, let me avoid that, so that I can advance spiritually. But actually spiritual bypassing, because sometimes we avoid out of fear of dealing with the responsibilities or dealing with the devotees that we had argument with. Sometimes we avoid in the name of spiritual advancement. Let me tolerate, let me continue to tolerate. But that actually is just the psychological aspect of us avoiding to face the reality, avoiding to work on our heart, avoiding to really work on what actually Krishna is trying to teach us. And so we have to be very mindful of that if we want to really seriously remove our anatta in our heart. Because like Chidi Shakti, she mentioned, and I keep thinking about that there's always a lesson that Krishna is trying to teach us in every single moment. And especially when someone feels upset with some devotee, if some devotee said something that really hurting to us, or something that really make us feel very irritated, agitated, or upset, instead of blaming that person, instead of complaining, we can ask ourselves, what is Krishna trying to teach me right here? And the thing is, the problem of the other person is really not our business, is that person's relationship with Krishna. We have no, we don't know what's going on internally for that devotee. Like Sachinandana Maharaj was saying, someone may fall down and we may blaspheme them. And there's actually, like things that that's really hurting the community, that really hurting our ISKCON society, and that's there. But at the same time, Sachinandana make the point that, but we don't know how badly that person may pray to Krishna, so not getting entangled that way. And maybe due to old habits, due to deluding themselves, that they may engage in some very abominable act. But again, they have a relationship with Krishna, and ultimately Krishna will protect the society and give them the lesson that they need to learn. But of course, as a society, we need to do certain things to protect our community. But again, it's very easy to blaspheme a devotee. It's very easy to criticize a devotee, but we never know their relationship with Krishna. And I'm so sorry, I keep going from one place to another and then I forget how I started. But yeah, back to the point that, yes, constantly asking, what is my role in this situation that caused me so much distress, that caused me so much disturbance? And in the verse today, it's explained that one should tolerate from the pleasure and pain arising from the material body. So the pleasure and pain is already a part of our material existence, does that mean that we're not going to do anything with it? Does that mean that we're just going to go on and tolerate? That's there, but also we want to take this advantage of any of our experience in this material world as a way to come closer to Krishna, as a way to remove our anatta, as a way to understand what is Krishna trying to teach me right now. So because there's not a lot of time left, the verse today has so much nectar, so much deep poise that I think in this verse we can give a class for the whole week. But because I want to really talk about the relationship between the devotees, especially a lot of us here on the farm, and I myself also in the process of entering a Grihastha ashram. So I try to, I guess, encourage myself through sastra. So I want to read just I want to read one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.5, verse 41. And in this, I won't go too deep into the context of it, but if you would like, you can always go back to the verse. And this is Daksha was accusing Narada Muni. And in the verse 6.5.41, Srila Prabhupada explained that it is not a fact that because material enjoyment involves so many painful conditions, one will automatically become detached. So a lot of the time we may think that, okay, by having some experience, like by going through Grihastha life, maybe after that I will feel engrossed, and that may happen. But here Srila Prabhupada stated that this is not a fact that because material enjoyment involves so many painful conditions, one will automatically become detached. One needs the blessing of devotee like Narada Muni. Then one can renounce his attachment for the material world. The young boys and girls of the Krishna consciousness movement have given up the spirit of material enjoyment, not because of practice, but by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his servants. So again, back to the point that it's not by forcefully renounce that we will get out of this material world, that we will advance spiritually, but by getting the blessing of a devotee like Narada Muni or his representatives. So I thought it is a very important point to make and to think about as well. And then I want to, since the discussion had been somewhat about male and female attraction and things like that, I want to read one more. This is just a paragraph from The Spiritual Warrior 2 by Bhakti Maharaj. And he wrote that true celibacy then is a form of renunciation in favor of a higher good. Instead of being a matter of denial or avoidance, renunciation is a question of how available we make ourselves for God's service. The real test of renunciation comes as we encounter various situations in daily life. Renunciation means a genuine commitment to serve the Lord rather than ourselves in all circumstances. We must see ourselves as caretakers for the Lord rather than proprietor of anyone or anything. However, renunciation doesn't mean being impersonal or indifferent to relationships. On the contrary, it actually means being more caring, attentive, sharing, aware, and protective. not because we are attached to our own fulfillment, but because we are making an offering to the Lord in every activity, every interaction that we have with ourselves and with others. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot going on in this text. I can copy and send it in the chat if anyone wants to read it again. But really, and here in the purport today, Srila Prabhupada also said that sex with one wife, according to the scriptural injunction, is also accepted at brahmacharya celibacy. So, back to the point of being the caretakers. How I remember my Guru Maharaj said in one lecture, these are his literal words quoted from the lecture that I wrote down. Study the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he presents the mood of a householder. Sometimes he lamenting, I'm simply thinking of making money to maintain wife and children. And sometimes he just surrendered to Krishna. And then he said, I'm working to maintain your servants. I'm outside the door like a dog. Anything going on in its house is for your pleasure. So you get so that's his mood. Sometimes he would lament like, oh, I'm a grihastha, I'm trying to make money to maintain wife and children. And on the other hand, he see that his wife and children as Krishna's servants. He's saying that I'm working to maintain your servants and I'm outside the door like a dog. And anything going on in the house is for your pleasure, for Krishna's pleasure. So basically you get the proper perfection of householder mentality from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He doesn't avoid the limitation, but then he surrendered to Krishna. And he described how his whole family becomes transformed by that. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj wrote a very beautiful point that renunciation doesn't mean being impersonal or indifferent to relationships. It actually means being more caring, attentive, sharing, aware, and protective, not because we're attached to our own fulfillment, but because we are making an offering to the Lord in every activity, every interaction that we have with ourselves and with others. And so just imagine that every activity, every interaction with one another is devotional service. Imagine that that is the opportunity to exchange love with Krishna, with his energy, with his eternal parts and parcels. So when you have an exchange of love with his parts and parcel, with another devotee, even with a jiva who may be forgotten of Krishna and who may not even know Krishna and still engaging in all the activities of Kali Yuga, even in that interaction, imagine that we can still see that exchange, that interaction with every single being as an exchange of love with Krishna, because we're not exchanging interaction with the body. We are exchanging interaction with the Lord from within that body who watching and receiving love. So imagine that we can have that consciousness when we interact with someone, that I am having an exchange with Krishna from within through this body, and may Krishna help this person just through my exchange of love. And I guess that is my last point for today. Please forgive me if I happen to perhaps offend anyone. I didn't mean to. And please share with me your realizations, your correction. Please share with me.
Crickets. Hare Krishna Parameshwari. Prabhu. Thank you for a very nice class. Um, I want to say that nothing you have said could, I don't think anyone could possibly construe anything that you have said or done as offensive in any way. Um, I don't know. My impression of you is that you don't really have an offensive bone in your body, but um, I particularly liked your discussion of what was it, Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, sixth canto, fifth chapter, text 41. That was a wonderful point. That and you know this is the crux of our whole um, approach to Krishna consciousness and to solving the problem of material existence. We depend upon the mercy of a pure devotee. And, for us, typically that pure devotee is going to be our spiritual master. It's by his grace and mercy that everything becomes possible. All of our advancement is made in that way. And um, it is he that empowers us to hear and chant the holy names, to receive Krishna's mercy. And so it's a hugely important point, very important thing to understand. Our relationship with all of the devotees is important because they are all part and parcel of Krishna. Um, you can't love Krishna and not love all of his parts and parcels. Uh, so your attitude towards every devotee is, that how do I say, if you're disrespectful or unappreciative of any of Krishna's parts and parcels, then that means that's your attitude towards at least a part of Krishna. We want to love Krishna fully, wholly, including all of his parts. So our relationship with all of Krishna's parts and parcels is very important, but particularly important is our relationship with Krishna's pure devotee, um, and especially that great soul who initiates us into the chanting of the holy names and agrees to give us shelter and deliver us uh, from material existence. That relationship is the most important of all. The relationship, sometimes circumstantially, we may have to be neglectful. There's only so much we can do. We have only so much time, and we're limited in so many ways. But we can't afford to be in any way neglectful of the spiritual master. He is hugely important. Everything depends upon our relationship with him. So, but every devotee is important. I was been thinking a lot about this recently. That there's been discussion in class over. I've heard it occasionally over the course of the past few months that the importance of relationship with devotees has been discussed in various ways. Sometimes, who I think Jagannath Pandit was quoting, might have been Radhanath Swami, saying that some huge percentage of our advancement was going to come from our association with devotees. And Srila Prabhupada would tell us that 90% or more of our advancement would come from our chanting of japa. But the reason that that so much also depends upon the devotees is that in order to get the mercy of the holy names, Krishna must be pleased with us. And if we are harsh in our dealings with his devotees, or somehow our relationships are um, less than cordial, Krishna will not be pleased, and so he may withhold or withdraw some of his mercy. That mercy, of course, we depend upon completely for everything. That's our higher taste that makes it possible to overcome all of binds us in material life. Um, so there's that relationship that hearing and chanting of the holy names is the specific means for this age, hugely important. But that process also depends upon our relationship with the devotees, because Krishna is a person. It's not a machine. It's not a mechanical process. We're dealing with always with persons, personalities. So Krishna is a person. He cares about all of his parts and parcels. If you displease any of his parts and parcels, Krishna also will not be pleased. So every relationship is important. If the devotees, or we mistreat devotees, if we offend devotees, that will affect us in a host of ways. It won't be possible to make any further progress. You can chant all you like, but you won't get the full effect of the chanting. So very important. But again, our relationship with the pure devotee and our spiritual master is the most critical of all. Srila Prabhupada mentions that about Vaishnava aparad, that of all the types of Vaishnava aparad, there is no offense greater than Gurva aparad, because and Gurva aparad is offenses against the spiritual master, the Guru, because of all Vaishnavas, he is the greatest of Vaishnavas. So very bad to offend any Vaishnava, but particularly bad to offend the foremost of the Vaishnavas, who is your spiritual master. So hugely important points, and we're out of time, so I'm going to shut my mouth. And I thank you again for a nice class. I always enjoy your classes. You do a nice job. You are studious and attentive, and bright enough to be able to pick up on lots of subtle points, and you have wonderful appreciation for all of what's there. So and it comes out in your classes. So I thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Taraka Prabhu, for your reflection, your wisdom, and your kindness. I think we may, since today's festival, we may have a couple more minutes if anyone have any reflection or questions, or yeah. If not, we will be awaiting their lordship. It's, thank you, everyone, for your. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I could mention that. So we're for Lord Nrsimha Day, we are fasting today till dusk, And one moment here while I have a hard time with my notes. Here we are. So dusk comes after the last limb of the sun descends below the horizon. The sunset is at 8:08. So it is at some point after 8:08 that dusk begins, and at that point we can break fast. Devotees are often wondering, when do we break fast? So sunset is 8:08 for those who are curious.
Thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna.
Thank you for the reminder. Nrsimha Bhagavatam ki jai. All glory to the Association of Devotee.